Midah HaAsiris, this is the 10th Midah of the Tomer Devorah. There's altogether 13. And the Midah HaAsiris, the 10th Midah, based on the Pasuk in Micha, is Titen Emes Yaakov. Part of the Pasuk we're probably most familiar with. Titen Emes Yaakov. Yaakov's here. Chesed LaAvram. The name of the Midah is Titen Emes Yaakov. One of the things that Hashem does in His Midos is He's Titen Emes Yaakov. Just before we learn in Tomer Devorah, what does that mean? What's the Pashup shot? Because Baruch Hu's Titen Emes Yaakov. You think Yaakov does Emes, so Yaakov does Emes with Hashem. What's the Titen Emes?
It's Torah Yaakov.
So He gives him Torah. That's a good Pashup shot. Titen Emes Yaakov, but what does it have to do with Mikel Kamocha? No, I mean, that's a shvach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that He gives us Torah. Titen Emes Yaakov. And then how do we emulate that? We give Torah to other people. Okay, nice. Nice.
Or that He fortifies Yaakov to have the koach to always do the Emes.
He fortifies Yaakov to do the Emes. Titen Emes Yaakov. He gives him the midas Emes, you're saying. Titen Emes Yaakov. What do you say, Danny? What's the Pashup shot? Titen Emes Yaakov.
Well, they mean the future tense.
Titen Emes Yaakov. So it can't be Matan Torah. Unless He gives him the koach to learn Torah. That might be. Tomer Devorah. Midah zu, this Midah, he sheyesh b'Yisrael Maila. This refers to a certain advantage or a Maila that Klal Yisrael has. It's by the way, just in terms of syntax. In the 9th Midah, which was a long, complicated, Kabbalistic, spooky Midah, the Tomer Devorah started off by saying, Zu Midah Toiva LaKadosh Baruch Hu. The 9th Midah started, this is a Chashuv Midah of Hashem. And they're all Chashuv Midahs, but this is a particularly Chashuv Midah la Hashem. And over here he timed in Zu Midah Zu, he sheyesh b'Yisrael Maila. So here we're talking the whole time about the Midas of Hashem, but all of a sudden we're talking about Midah Zu, hu sheyesh b'Yisrael Maila. Hashem's Midah is that there's a Maila b'Yisrael. Some kind of a thing about Jews, something about Jews. Something about Jews. And what is it? Let's look Colossians very carefully, not read it quickly because otherwise it won't make any sense at all. Oisam habeinonim, regular Jews, she'enam yodim lehisnai lifnim ashuras hadin, that are not so mishkin grace of Chasidim and Tzadikim. They just do what's supposed to be done. Heim nikroim Yaakov, Pashut Yid, who's not doing anything, he's just doing what's asked of him. It's already a big madrega, halavai, we would just do what's asked of him. But that's only called Yaakov, as opposed to Yisrael. Mipnei she'enam misnagim elam im hanhaga amitis. What they're doing is, they're going with the Emes. Why are they going with the Emes? That's the thing, just tell me the halakha. Tell me the halacha, and that's what I'm going to do. I don't have to do more than the halacha. I'm not going to do less than the halacha. Don't be chumrah. So there's a certain midas emes that there is to Yaakov. Eim nikroim Yaakov mipnei she'enam misnagim im ela im hanhaga amitis. They're noyeg with emes. Gama Kadosh Baruch Hu. I'm going to try to explain this. We'll just get the words. Gama Kadosh Baruch Hu yesh le midas emes shehi al tzad metzius hamishpat hayasher. So Kadosh Baruch Hu, therefore, has the same midas emes, shehi al tzad metzius hamishpat hayasher, which is the very straight mishpat of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So, ve'elahem hamisnagim ba'olam b'yosher, and that it refers to Titen Emes Yaakov, people that work in this world b'yosher, v'HaKadosh Baruch Hu misnagim moim be'emes, merachim aleim al tzad hayosher v'hamishpat. It's hard to know what he means. To me, this is a very confusing little thing here.
It puts a question mark after Ba'olam.
Oh, really? I don't have a question mark. Where's Ba'olam?
Definitely was a glitch over the world.
Where are you talking about?
It's not about all of them.
Mida zu ish yishol bailo. Oisava beta liv shade of yodav li'sayv with divashers and him ani kram yakum ibn she'ena misnagin liman hagas hamitius kama kodesh baruch hu yesh lamidas emes shol tzad metzias hamishvat vayoshev ve'elu hamisnagin ba'olam. No, that makes sense.
Oh, it's just someone put that in there. It's not
No, but why? The yosher ba'olam. It's a typo.
Oh.
In the middle of a sentence. I mean, you can't have a question mark in the middle. So let me try to explain something which I think is very pertinent here. I hope that's like there could be like I hate to make you do this, but you just hold on, kid. We'll go upstairs. I mean, there's a sort of a push-up shot here of Mida Keneged Mida, but that doesn't fit in here. But there's a Mida Keneged Mida of, like they always say, Rishoyim get out of, Rishoyim are in Gehenna, and on Shabbos, they're out of Gehenna. So, therefore, they say that if you keep Shabbos Rabbeinu Tam longer, so if you have Xeris Gehenna, so you get to stay out of Gehenna longer because you go with the Shittas Rabbeinu Tam. So the Malach comes, okay, everybody back into hell. Rabbeinu Tam Shkia. It's hard to imagine that somebody who keeps the Shabbos Rabbeinu Tam is burning in hell. It's hard to put those two things together. Okay, cool to say there. But I think here we're talking about something actually quite deep. And that is this, that Yaakov Avinu, Titen Emes Yaakov Chesed LaAvraham. So Yaakov Avinu was the Midah of Emes. Avraham was the Midah of Chesed. He's always doing Chesed. He opened his tent on all four sides. He did Bris Milah. He expanded himself on every level, extended himself on every level. Yitzchak is considered Pachad. It's not in this pasuk one way or the other. And Yaakov was the Midah of Emes. Titen Emes LiYaakov. The truth of the matter is, if you think about it honestly, Yaakov seems of all the Avos to be the antithesis of Emes. Yaakov is the one who
Fibs.
Yeah, he's the one who said, Ani Esav, B'chorcha Esav, Avisan Esav. That's so Emes. Yaakov is the one who did shtiklach with Lavan. So, okay, everything is mutter, there's drushes for everything, and maybe it wasn't exactly, but why are we giving dafka to Yaakov, the Midah of Emes? Of all Midos to give Yaakov, why are we giving him the Midah of Emes? He was dafka the one that was the least Emes. We don't find Yitzchak in any place fibbing, as you say. We don't find Avram Avinu in any place going in any way, except for Avram said to Sarah, tell them my sister. But Yaakov Avinu was like the Rosh. In fact, all the halachas of where it's mutter to lie come from Yaakov. Mutter l'shadish b'nei hashalom. The Balei Musar say from Yaakov we learned that when you're dealing with a Lavan, you have to get Lavadik, you have to get down to earth. So it's a bit of a pella that Yaakov Avinu is considered the Ish Emes, Titen Emes LiYaakov Chesed LaAvraham. It's a bit of a pella, right?
Why?
Why not?
Because if these are the only places you're allowed to lie, then everybody else is mistama using.
I mean, this was the only cases that he lied. Yeah. No, but I'm saying almost everything we know about Yaakov is a little bit with the yeah. Even the story of Yosef, it was tell Yosef this, tell Yosef that, tell the Melech this, tell the Melech that. He was on an ongoing. Like it didn't seem to. I'm not talking about Yaakov Avinu, but I wouldn't say that was his koach. Like where do we get the koach of Emes? We get it from Yaakov. I'm sure the Yaakov Avinu wasn't a shakar, that's not what I'm saying, but like Dafka to attribute the Vida of Emes to Yaakov.
It seems perfect to attribute to Yaakov.
The what?
It seems perfect to attribute to Yaakov because it's based on Hashem's emes. When we see Hashem doesn't do something in the world, it seems like, why is that happening? Why? The true emes is that, you think it's not wrong, it's wrong, and really it's good. Really it's right. So that's maybe Yaakov, yes.
So, okay, you're about 9 steps ahead of me, but I think what you're saying is true. So let's look at it this way. There's MS, and then there's a deeper MS. So we always say the end doesn't justify the means. But the fact of the matter is that MS would not warrant l'chora Yaakov to say to Yitzchak, Ani Esav. But if you look at the bigger MS, so the bigger MS is that what would have happened if Esav would have gotten the bracha and not Yaakov? So the bracha, as I've explained many times, was the bracha of longevity. You live forever. So HaKadosh Baruch was making the world so that there would be a tikkun in the world. If Esav has a bracha from Yitzchak that he's always going to be here, then he can't have Mashiach. And he can't have the tikkun of the Chet of Adam Arishon. And Esav has to be in this world as an Nisayon, not as the goal. And Yaakov has to be the goal. So now there's in front of me 2 emeses. There's the emes of right now in this conversation where I'm saying Ani Esav. And then there's a bigger emes of if I don't say this sheker, without saying all the chaps, the vertelach that he put a kama, Ani B'charcha, Esav, Bincha. They make a whole, with just a simple pshat. Let's learn the simple pshat. If I'm going to say the emes here, it's going to come out the biggest sheker. And I'm undoing the sheker which my father Yitzchak is seeing, that he's giving the bracha to Esav. So there's emes, and then there's a bigger emes. And that bigger emes is the context of the sheker. Now, is Yaakov Avinu saying something emes, or is he saying something which is sheker? This is a slippery slope, by the way. Because, as I say, the end doesn't justify the means.
But here it does.
And here it seems too. But I'm just, again, I'm not going to Tomer Devorah yet, but there's Titen Emes Yaakov. Later on, when Yaakov Avinu was good, and Esav said this, Yaakov Avinu is pamayim. He tried to take my bechora, now he's taking my bracha. He's he's Yaakov. Alkein nikra shmo Yaakov. Yaakov. The Kadosh Baruch Hu even said he's an okev. Okev. Okev means not glut, not yashar. That's what the word means. Okay. Later on, he was called Yisrael. So when he was called Yisrael, so Chazal say V'haya ha'akov lamishar. That's the pasuk. Yaakov means hilly, crooked. Akov. Meshar means straight. Yisrael, Lashon Yashar. So he went from being crooked to being straight, meaning that when he was called Yisrael, that was Vayikra Shema Yisrael Vayeshurun. That's what the Lashon of the Navi is. Vayikra Shema Yisrael Vayeshurun. When the Navi was chazering over the story, he said that he became Yashar, meaning that there was like a Gilui Milsa Lemafreya, that all of the shtikalach of Yaakov Avinu were really emes. It was really Yashar. So V'haya ha'akav, the hills, talking about the time of Mashiach, the hills become straight. How's it going to be that there's going to be an extra 30, 40 million people moving to Israel in the next couple of weeks? So the answer is that the hills are all these hills are all going to flatten. We're going to lose our view. So probably, the neighbors will be against this. But the fact of the matter is we'll have housing for another few million people because the hills will become straight and cover over. Where's it going to go? It's going to cover over Syria and Jordan, and it's all going to become Eretz Yisrael. Lebanon, all going to become Eretz Yisrael. It's going to be housing space for everybody. Amen. Can you hear what's up? So, So that's the Pashut Pshat v'Hayaakov l'mishar. But Chazal Darshan v'Hayaakov l'mishar means that which was previously crooked will become straight. Zu Yaakov shnikar Shema Yisrael shenamar v'yikra Shema Yisrael v'Yeshurun. Said in davening even, and he became Yashar. So there's this idea of a Gilui L'Mafreya of being Yashar. What does it really mean on
We needed the Navi to give a hechsher.
He's explaining the history, that when Hashem called him Yisrael, he vindicated him and redeemed him from his Yaakov past, that everything was, that you should know everything with Yaakov is Yashar. See, sometimes you look at this is a very difficult subject, I believe, but sometimes you can look at a tzaddik and say, like, where's the Yosher? You're expecting the highest level of Yosher, which is correct. We should expect the highest level of Yosher. But on the other hand, the tzaddik is plagued with the Ruach HaKodesh to be able to see that this Yosher could end up Akov, to see a bigger picture. So when you see a bigger picture, is it Ba'emes a sheker or is it not a sheker at this moment? So the Gemara doesn't say that you're allowed to lie, but the Gemara says mutter l'shanois mipnei hashalom, for instance. Or the Gemara in Ksuvas Yud Zayin, the famous Gemara, the Gemara says that if you go to a chasen and the kala is ugly, you don't start dancing. You are ugly. Yeah. That's not what you do. Kala na v'chasuda. So Hillel says, Misha lokach mekach min hashuk. It's a funny Gemara because the Gemara asks the Lashon She'ela. He said, well, how can you say that the kala is ugly? He says, well, b'dvar sheker tirchak. So Hillel says, so Misha lokach min hashuk yishabchenu v'einav or yiganenu v'einav. Somebody buys a new car, you're supposed to tell him, oh, that's ugly, I hate it. Or you're supposed to tell him it's beautiful. It's a question, Hillel says, but apparently it was a very clear thing. And that's the halacha, that you're allowed to bend the truth a little bit. If somebody buys something, I'll say, oh, that's very nice. You look in those glasses, even though it looks like ridiculous. You're allowed to do that. So why are you allowed to do that? Why? What's it like? So by the kala, I could understand shalom bayis. Somebody says to me, I bought a new suit. Do you like it? And you don't like it.
So Nastavorim, if he can't bring it back, or if you don't think he's going to bring it back, so you're telling him it's ugly, what do you
I'll say he can bring it back. The halacha changes.
He probably won't bring it back. So you're mitzvah the guy.
You're hurting his feelings.
Yeah, but you're being mashakir.
You're hurting his feelings.
So say the emes. I'm just saying the emes. I'm going to say I plead the fifth. I can't comment. Change the subject. What's the? No, we're so moisture nefesh for emes. So here you
I don't hear the question so much because it's subjective truth. I mean, there's no objective truth about whether it looks good or not. That's what I think.
Well, he's asking you what you think. So you're lying about what you think.
Yeah.
So that is objective truth. I think it's ugly. So.
I think it's good for you.
Matches you. Such a soon.
The point is not what you think, but what Hashem thinks. I mean, I think that's where we started off wrong in the beginning with Adam Arishon. It's what he thought was sheker, and it wasn't.
Okay. So you're saying something very profound. So what happens is that when somebody, take the case of the kala. Obviously, Hashem put them together, Chasan and Kala, Mazel Tov. So Hashem put them together. You think she's like you can't believe he made that choice. Like I would have, why would you marry somebody who looks like that? So that's what we're thinking. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu thought, like you say, it was a good shidduch. So Kala Nova Chasuda. Let me put it in my words, which I think is the same thing as you're saying, and Rabbi Yaakov was everybody's saying the same thing. I want to frame this for our own kind of behavior structure, and that is that there's an MS of she looks this way, she looks that way, in my opinion. But then there seems to be a greater madrega of MS where all the pieces fit together, and the greater context of MS has to do with, like you're saying, this is the Das Hashem Kineret. It must be that it's beautiful. Otherwise this wouldn't happen. But I mean, you don't even have to go so far. Just like the greater shita of emes here is that Stvarm. Like why would I make you feel bad for doing something. Why would I want you to walk around feeling, oh, look, I made such a crazy mistake? So Yishab Chenu Be'einav, Yishalachach Megach Menashuk, Yishab Chenu Be'einav. Meaning what Hillel was saying to Shammai, in that Gemara is that why are you looking at the small, the emes right in front of you? Why don't you look at the bigger emes? What are you going to do to this chassan over here if you say that you made a terrible mistake? What are you going to do? So there seems to be a greater truth idea. Now the truth of the matter is, the greater truth, we can't go this derech. Ali B'Demas, the Vilna Gaon says, Vilna Gaon talks about, there is a sugya of Aver Lishma. And Aver Lishma means, what's Aver Lishma mean? That I can do an Avera because at the end it's going to come out good. Like Yael Esha Sakeni, so she, or you don't have to go so far as Yael, Esther Hamalka. So Esther Hamalka cohabited with the king because that was the right thing to do for Klal Yisrael. So was that a mitzvah or was that an Avera? So we talked about it, we speak about this a lot. Is that a mitzvah or is that an Avera? It could be it's the Ratzon Hashem. So to say that it's not an Avera, so it is an Avera. How can you say it's not an Avera? Yael Esha, so she cohabited with, she seduced Sisera, and then so she can cut off his head. and once she cut off his head, it's an ancient minhag apparently. Since once she cut off his head, she demoralized the armies of Sisera, and the Jews won the war. So the Gemara says on this, Nashim ba'oil tevorach. This Yael Esha Sakeni was in the oil, and she gave a blessing at that time. That was a wonderful thing that she did here. And the Devorah Hanaviyah said on her that she was bigger, Nashim ba'oil tevorach, that she's bigger than Sarah Rivka Rachel V'Leah for doing this Aver. Say Klal Yisrael. So the Gemara learns from here that God will Aver Lishma, mitzvah Shalai Lishma. Sometimes an Aver Lishma is even bigger than a mitzvah Shalai Lishma.
The daughters of Lot.
Daughters of Lot. Okay, but on them, Devorah didn't say that they're bigger. That they were bigger than. One moment, if you don't mind. I just want to see.
Greater than the mitzvah Shalai Lishma, you said?
Gadol Aver Lishma, mitzvah Shalai Lishma.
Is the mitzvah Shalai Lishma great?
What?
Is the mitzvah Shalai Lishma great?
No, that's not that much. Gadol Aver. The pshat is that if you'll take four components here, you have mitzvah Aver Lishma, Shalai Lishma. So you have two ma'asim, two kavanas. So if you have to choose between the ma'aseh tov and the kavanah tov, so the kavanah tov is bigger than the ma'aseh tov. That's the pshat in that Gemara, right? The kavanah tova of lishma, even if it's an avera, so you have the kavanah without the ma'aseh is even bigger than the ma'aseh without the kavanah. So gadol avera lishma, mitzvah shalai lishma. But the best thing would be a mitzvah lishma. That would be the best thing, but we see it by this Yael Esha Sakeni that there's a concept of Aver Lishma and its mutter, and Devorah Hanaviyah blessed her for that. Gedolah Nashim Tevorach, Gedolah Minashim, but she was bigger than Sarah Rivka Rachel V'Leah. She's bigger than the Nashim. Just want to find for you a second.
It's not really clear from Tzedakah if she was a Jewish lady. It's not really clear from Tzedakah if she was a Jewish.
It was still, it could be she wasn't Jewish, but you see the Devorah said that it was called an Avera. So if she wasn't Jewish, what was the Avera?
Exactly.
Right. So it must be that either it's an Avera Gam L'Goyim, but it was a clear. Here. Oh, Baruch Hashem. I love when I have no idea where I'm looking and I find it. So the Vilna Gaon says like this. Avera lishma, Amar Rabbeinu, the Goin said, Shalai hutar mizman matan Torah klum. There's no such thing from the time of matan Torah. There's no such concept any longer. Why? Because people will say that everything is an Aver Lishma. I'm driving to Shul on Shabbos because otherwise I'm not going to go to Shul on Shabbos. Everything. You could justify everything, right? Everything ultimately comes for a mitzvah. So the guy says, no. Amarim kain lama kol tariag mitzvahs. So I wrote the whole Torah. Like if everything you could do, you're just thinking about, well, what's the end going to come from? So where's it going to come to? So we have halachas, we have tariag mitzvahs that if it's biguach nefesh, you're allowed to eat treif. If I'm going to have koach to learn Torah by eating chazer, we're not eating. People we're dying not to eat chazer to learn Torah. And lama kol tariag mitzvahs. Masha l'shma yasa, l'shma lo yasa. The Vilna Gaon says, all you have to do is think of one thing in your life: is this l'shma? Is this not l'shma? And you should do it if it's l'shma, and if it's not l'shma, don't do it. And you don't have to think about whether the mice is a good mice or not a good mice. Okay, now the Goin is going against the Gemara. The Gemara says the Gadol Aver l'shma, mitzvah l'shma. So he says lehuter mizman matan Torah klum. It's not mutter bizman matan Torah. The Gemara brings a raya from Yael. So the answer must be what you're saying, that the Yael wasn't Jewish. There's no raya from her. She wasn't chayiv matan Torah. But for us Jews, you see the concept from Yael, but the concept we only find by Jews, and by the Avos you're only going to find kodim matan Torah. Avol be'emez acher matan Torah ein lazuz mikol Torah mitzvos v'divrei Chazal. V'shaloi li shayin al das hayetzer, because this is a place where the Yetzer Hara will krich in and give you if you're smart enough, everything becomes mutter.
So what does the Gemara teach
The
us?
pasuk in Tillim, V'risa ganav v'tiratz imay. Always has a shot. Matzinu b'medrash. So this is an amazing going. Matzinu b'medrash shechanoich hayotayfer min alayim. Chanoich was making shoes. B'chol tzvira kiven yichudim upal lamala. What's the shot? Rabbi Yochanan HaSandler, let's say. Was making shoes. What was he doing? Every time he made a stitch, he was machavin l'mayla, right? This is the mahus of a Jew, that everything you do, you're machavin l'mayla. Everything you're doing is l'shem shamayim. L'shem shamayim. Good. So the pshat and the avos before Matan Torah is that they were on such a madrega that everything they did was klape mala. Like there's such a concept there's a concept today also. Everything we do should have a lishma component in it, or be makdish it, do it for a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Do it for a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Buy a car, so make up in your mind that you're going to do chesed for people with the car. Okay. If you have a house, Hashem gives you a house, make up in your mind you're going to do hachnas asarchim in the house. If you have extra money, make up in your mind you're going to use that money for a Kadosh Baruch Hu. I'm going to make a gemach. But what about if I'm doing an aver? Can I be a Robin Hood and steal from the rich and give to the poor? So no. So he says, by the avos, where they knew how to be miyachid every piece of gashmis to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that was the madrega that they were on, so they were able to do even aver lishma. But by us, we're not on that madrega. It says, al derech b'chol dirachecha de'eu b'chol zeh koydem matan Torah. Oh, leben noyach gam bezman hazeh. Very interesting. A guy is allowed to do an aver lishma today, says the guy. Says the Vilna Gaon. Oh, ben Noach gam bezman hazeh. So if you're ever giving a lecture to Noachized, the rule for those that keep the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach, that if you're lishma, you're allowed to do an aver. That changes everything.
Well, all of a sudden, not Chaim Misa, because it's Lishma.
It's lishma, because by them it goes with the kavanah. V'haraya, if they do all the Zayin mitzvahs without kavanah, it's kilu lo yasa. The haraya that the whole thing has to do with their kavanah. We don't find this by Jews necessarily. But by Goyim, we find that they have to do with kavanah. That's what Rambam says. Rishus nesuna lo lavoy boyer yisparach shmoi b'chol ma sheyirtzeh. Ach l'shma yisparach sulas Zayin mitzvahs. Okay. Avalanu b'nei Yisrael nasna Torah geder gvul. For us, once the Torah was given, we stopped thinking in a way. And as a geder gvul. V'chol ha'maisa nichlal b'tzivui v'azar b'tzivui ni'achid kamanasenu la'bar yisbar shvai. We do the lishma in the mitzvah, not outside the mitzvah. The geder achasidus l'daktek behen ad ksei ha'achrain v'lifra ishme'achad meshivim b'shara iser. It goes on and on. But the point that he's making is that you see that the inyan of lishma, once the Torah was given, lishma means that you're taking, ultimately I'm taking my gashmias and I'm mishabed to ruchnias. But we can only do that in the gather of mitzvahs once the Torah was given. It's a chiddush from the Vilna Gaon and Aver Lishma. Let's go back to Yaakov. So Yaakov Avinu, in fact, he brings this example. V'im Yaakov lokach beis achiyos. You see, Yaakov married two sisters. It says that he kept the whole Torah. Unfortunately, the Gemara that he kept the whole Torah, so how did he marry two sisters? V'amram nasa doidasai. Zeh ha'yakaydim han Torah. Avol me'esh shekibel Moshe HaTorah b'sinai loy tischalav v'loy tazar chas v'shalom av shi'asa kichein roy loy v'tikun nishmasa beis aver. So some kind of a mystic decides that I have to have an affair with this Eishes Ish, so it'll come out of Gadol Adar. No way, stone him. No such provisions. We don't make any provisions for people that have their own Torah. So everything has to be lishma.
How does it work together, though? You can't say he kept the Kol Kula and Yaakov didn't have to.
Because by him that was the Torah. The Torah he kept, not that he didn't have to. He was allowed to think into the Sivas HaMitzvah and say that I should do this differently.
For him, the Torah didn't apply the same way it does for us.
Right. In other words, we don't think so much. We don't think into the mitzvahs and say, well, but I'm better off marrying this person. I'm better off eating this food. Because Lishoin al Das Yetzer is all Yetzer Hara. So that's why Hashem gave the Torah. That's Gufa why Hashem gave the Torah. But the Avos, the Kavanah was so pure and so selfless. V'harai, they did things like the Akedah, and they did things like... So there was such a selfless, not in everybody in that generation, but by the Avos. So there was such a selflessness there that HaKadosh Baruch Hu relied on them to do Aveira Lishma. Question is an Aveira Lishma, an Aveira, not an Aveira. Remember I told you the story of the Chazon Ish and the Be'er Sheva Rav? The Rav of Be'er Sheva. The mikveh, the story of the mikveh. So let's just do Chazara real quickly, because that's like mamish the case. The story was that the Rav of Be'er Sheva wanted to build a mikveh, and the Uriyah of Be'er Sheva would only allow him to build a mikveh for zoning purposes, where the shul used to be. That was zoned public religious place and no place else. And the residents didn't want whatever. We all know the story. Also ruined the view, I guess, the mikveh, and all that. So he asked the Chazon Ish whether he should build a mikveh where you're not allowed to build a mikveh. The one place where you're not allowed to build a mikveh is on a makom of Beis HaKnesses Kavua. Not a Beis HaKnesses like this. This is we made with the T'nai. But if you have a Beis HaKnesses Kavua, so then you're not allowed to build a mikveh there. And the Chazon Ish told him, build a mikveh. It's kedai for you to do an Aveira, so the Klal Yisrael, the community, should have a mikveh. So that was an Aveira Lishma. It was a little bit not like the like the Vilna Gaon. And the end of the story was, so he said, the Chazon Ish said to him, he says, but it's an Aveira, you're not allowed to do it. So the Chazon Ish said to him, so you'll burn in Gehenna a little bit, and the Olam will have a mikveh. It's kedai. So he said, why should I burn in Gehenna? The Chazon Ish, you're paskening, you'll burn in Gehenna. Why should I burn in Gehenna? I'm coming to you with the shilas. So he says, no, you're the Rav, that's your job. So everyone tells the rabbi to go to hell. You see, this is like an obek. The obek I did know because this is what is going on. Forgive me. 36 years of being a rav is getting to me. But so back to Yaakov Avinu for a moment. In our case, Yaakov Avinu says, "Ani Esav." So what are you telling a sheker? Yaakovuni zeh pamayim. Yaakov is with Lavan is crooked, with Esav is crooked, with the Bechor is crooked, with the Brachos is crooked. So what's the pshat? The pshat is that the Lishma creates a greater Emes. If you're really holding on that madrega, the Lishma creates a greater Emes. Now, if that's true, that the Lishma can create a greater Emes, that's what Lishma means, isn't it? That's what Lishma means, that there's a greater truth here. So whether we're noheg like this or not, but there is a greater truth, and you see this possibility. Titen Emes liYaakov, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu considered everything that Yaakov did as Emes. The Titen Emes liYaakov is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu considered the sheker of Yaakov a Dvar Emes, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu looked at a bigger context when it came to him. And that's the chiddush of the midah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that when he's judging people, forgetting about the halacha of Aver Lishma, he's not just looking at what they're doing, he's looking at the whole context and where they're coming from, and the essence of being down l'kav zchus. Meaning, if you look at something in a micro, through a micro, if you give a micro look, so this looks like a terrible thing. But if you look at the bigger picture, so then you see that there's something much more to it. Once you understand where the person is coming from, so you can understand that there's a bigger MS. Not necessarily that he's right even, but there's a bigger MS than the MS that of the Maisa itself.
So the intentions are greater than the Maisa.
In this regard, so even though we don't go against halacha necessarily, and that's what he says, even though we don't go against halacha because of lishma, maybe it means like the Goin says that there's no aver lishma b'zman hazeh, but nevertheless, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is judging a person, and so let's say we're standing in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and on Yom Kippur and Shemon Esrei, and we're doing Shuvah, we're saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, yes, I did this, yes, I did that, but understand a bigger MS. You see, I want to point something out, that when it comes to being down l'kav zchus, there's like a very, there's books written about it, and it's usually very unrealistic and superficial, l'dati. You see somebody driving their car on Shabbos, so you can look at it and say, well, probably, we train kids to do this, probably he's running to the hospital because his wife is pregnant and going to have a baby. Yeah, but it's one male in the car and he's 94, so what's he driving on Shabbos? Something, well, maybe, so this is like an exercise for the imagination and coming up with being down l'kav zchus. Or you could say, like Nebuch doesn't understand Chilul Shabbos. He didn't have the kind of a chinuch that we have to know that you're not supposed to drive on Shabbos. He didn't understand the Chomer HaDover. So, what's the point of coming up with artificial, ridiculous explanations when there's a very clear explanation that to him this wasn't considered, even if he knows about it, this is considered something which was he thinks he's doing a mitzvah. He thinks he's doing a mitzvah. So there's a sort of a larger truth there. The classic case that the books say of being down l'kav zchus is that there was a money collector, a meshulach, going from house to house and talking about how poor he is and haflasas kala, and everyone's giving him $1 and $18 and $20 and then somebody's at the airport and they see that he's standing in the first class line with his suitcases. Like, you can't do a bigger aver than that. Flying business class first, the worst aver you can do. It's like you're collecting money and you're flying. What's the shot? This is what you're doing with your money. It's made a whole TorahLab about it. When it came out at the end, to make a long story short, it was apparently a true story. Somebody approached him and said, "What's going on over here? Why are you doing?" He said, "I'm flying first class." He said, "There's an old lady who didn't have the koach to wait in line." I said to her, "I'll wait in line for you in the line." And he's holding her suitcases for her. So there's an easy down l'kav zchus that can happen over here. Or there's a bigger picture. Let's say you have even a bigger mind, and the bigger mind, Rosh Gadol is look at this person. They just went through such agony and such trauma and such embarrassment, going door to door, and they're so tired, and they've lost every drop of kavod that they have, and he has enough mileage to fly business class, so he wants to give himself a little bit of chizuk so he can go on with his life. What's wrong with that down l'kav zchus? Why do we have to come? Why do we have to look for the old lady? That's the point. So I'm why can't we have a little bit of generosity of spirit to be able not to have to look for the old lady and just look at where a person's coming from. So this is what I think what means by a greater MS. So just like Yaakov Avinu Titen Emes Yaakov, that he was doing something that looked like a Maisa Sheker, but at the end there was a bigger MS, Vayikar Shema Yisrael Vayishurun, and he became Yashar, Akoiv, Lemishar, Yaakov became Mishar, became Yashar. So there could be such a Kadosh Baruch Hu is looking at people, not just at what they're doing, but a Kadosh Baruch Hu is looking at people at where they're coming from, and the whole context of it. Do you know that the probably the main impetus for the Kiruv movement and the Baal Tshuva movement outside of the Chabad world? Chabad impetus is different, I think, Al Pi Chassidus, but in the Litvischer world, let's say, So there was no such thing. The derech of the Litayim, the Vilna Gaon, which probably comes from Chazal, clear is that you're not Shomer Shabbos. You're not one of us. It's as simple as that. You're a Machal Shabbos. You're Machal Shabbos. I don't want to be in your Daled Amos. I don't want you to daven in my shul. I don't want to count you for a minyan. I grew up with that. I grew up with old-time Jews that if somebody's Machal Shabbos, they count him for a minyan. And the shul I davened, they would give him an aliyah. But you know, and the big and there was something to that also. It wasn't that they were mean. It was Shmiras Hadas. It was I come from Buffalo, New York. So Buffalo, New York always averages at about 20,000 Jews. The minyan that my grandfather down in Buffalo, New York. So you weren't allowed to come into the room of that minyan unless the Rav or Bloch paskin that you were a kosher Yid. So like at my grandfather, I remember I was a little kid, I was maybe 11, 12, at my grandfather's funeral, so the big shvach that they said about him was he davened in his minyan. Did not say anything more than that. Like that means that he wore the right tzitzis and his business was closed on Shabbos. So that was the derech of Klal Yisrael. The Hasidim, the Baal Shem Tov, different thing. But the Litvish derech, I'm not saying one better than the other. I'm just saying the Litvish derech was always not to reach out, not be done. But there was the one who changed all this, L'dati, was the Chazon Ish, because the Chazon Ish came along and said, listen, why is this different than the Gemara of Tinuk Shenishba? A Tinuk Shenishba is somebody who doesn't know any better. So do we have the chinuch today? The people were brought up by maskilim with the wars, like the running around that the Jews did. So they're Tinuk Shenishba Ben Akum. Why the difference Tinuk Shenishba Ben Akum? There the din is by Tinuk Shenishba Ben Akum that we don't hold it against them. It's not like they made a choice to be Machal Shabbos, they're turncoats. We don't hold it against them, and hence the impetus and started at that time for the Litvisha world to get involved with the Kiruv. I mean, there were others also. I know that Rav Cutler, that's all, even when he lived in Kletsk in Europe, Rav was the big, Lakewood Litvisha Rosh Yeshiva. So it's Yadua, as Rav Schneier said over. I remember hearing Rav Schneier said over that in Kletsk every Friday he used to knock on all the. He took off Friday afternoon. There was no seder in Yeshiva in Kletsk. He was a Rosh Yeshiva. He would knock on all the doors of all the Bundistim and all those people, that he would beg them to send their kids to the Talmud Torah. Like you don't make a mistake. You're going to lose your children, or we're going to lose them to Klal Yisrael. So but that's Avos Yisrael. That's a different story. It doesn't mean that he counted them in his minyan in Kletsk. But with the Chazon Ish gave the non-frum people a completely different perspective. So what was that? If you look at it ba'omek, it was the ultimate in Dal Makav Schus. In other words, there's a truth of what he's doing is wrong, but then there's a greater truth of what he's doing is wrong, but why you have to look at where he's coming from and understand that and take that into consideration when you're being Messiachis to the person. So the Titen Emes Yaakov that the Tomer Devorah is talking about is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have looked at Yaakov and said, Yaakov nizel pamayim. Why'd you say you're Esav if your name is Yaakov? Why'd you take the Bechor? Or why are you marrying Shtei Achiyos, like the Goin says? Why are you marrying two sisters? Why don't you keep my Torah? It was about Bechira, just like us. So why did you do it? Because Baruch Hu looked at a bigger truth. So the bigger truth was a gedder of being down l'kav schus. That's a new level of emes of Titen Emes Yaakov that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had. So just before we learn inside on Sunday, what it comes out is the limud is a very, very clear limud, that when we're looking at other people, we're supposed to be godly, right? We're supposed to act like HaKadosh Baruch Hu is acting. So it's not about justifying what somebody does. It's not our job necessarily to judge what people do one way or the other. But what it is being the Chazon Ish, being a Chazon Ishnik here. And being a Chazon Ishnik means that we have to, before we pass judgment, if we're passing judgment, before we pass judgment on another person or another group of people or even a movement, so we have to understand the whole gestalt of where they're coming from, and I'll tell you something, that this Titen Emes Yaakov doesn't make that what they're doing right necessarily. It doesn't make what they're doing right, But what it does is it makes them not Rishoyim. They're not Rishoyim on the same level. If you start looking even at the movements that we despise so much, and you start to analyze, like, where did this come from? Who was their father? Who was their grandfather? Where did it come from in Europe? Who were these? You know, why did they become like this? Did it have to do with the Holocaust? Did it have to do with the Maskilim? Did it have to do with the Bundistim? And you start looking at it, like, they're doing something which is they're different than us, but there's a whole different level over here that you have to look, a whole different level of Emes there. And then some of them within that sheker or their reality of Emes were doing some pretty good work. So I know that one of the Gedolei Hador, who was such an anti-Zionist, so somebody started talking about Ben Gurion back then, B'Shas Maisa, and he said, "Lust him up. He's doing. Leave him alone. He's not a person to talk about." How do you? I mean, from where he was coming from, and what he meant to be doing for the Jewish people. I'm not giving a Zionist talk now, but I'm just saying one of the big Hasidic Rebbes who was a Gadol Hador, who was so anti, said you're not allowed to come to Eretz Yisrael, not allowed to go to the Kosel, you know, like, but at the same time, like, lust him up, like he's you have to understand the whole context of it. So this is, thank God, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing with us every moment, and this is what we need to be doing with other people. That's the Oyster Veinik of the Tomer Devorah.
When I'm looking at Emes, when it says that Hashem gave Yaakov Emes, He gave him eternity. So when you look at eternity, it's not just looking at the future; it's looking back to it. And when you say Emes,
you're above time.
You're above time. It's Adam, Moshe, Teshuva, and Adam includes Esav. So, you know,
right. He's a human.
He's a human, right?
Emes.
Are you saying that the Gemara, that's what Gemara is teaching, that without a very Lishma, the Gemara is telling you how to look at another Jew?
I believe so.
Otherwise, what's the message? The
right.
message is only relevant for Goyim. So,
right. Or maybe the Gemara is telling you how negative it is to do a mitzvah shaloi lishma. It could be even an Aveira is bigger than a. See, the truth is that a mitzvah shaloi lishma, when you think about it, has no mile at all. What is it? It's a robotic computer can do a mitzvah shaloi lishma. What's the mile of doing a mitzvah shaloi lishma? We don't find anywhere that it's a mile. The only thing the Gemara says that lo'elam yaseh gadam b'torah mitzvah shaloi lishma for one reason only, mitay shaloi lishma ba lishma. Unto itself, there's no virtue, but it's a good exercise. Like, just get into the habit of doing mitzvahs. Okay, so but on a spiritual level, it has no mile at all. Ultimately, that's meforish in the Gemara. Nothing. I know many people disagree with that, and they say, well, the actual Maisa is bringing good energy. I don't know if that's true, by the way. If you learn a little bit of Kabbalah, just Kabbalah 101, you'll see that the Shalai Lishma actually brings koach to the Sitra Achra and to the Klipa. It's not a positive thing. But Afal Pikein, it's worth it to do it. So what the Gemara is really saying there is that I'd rather see an Aveira Lishma than a Mitzvah Shalai Lishma, because at least the lishma is there. At least you're having one part of it, which is right. Because a mitzvah with no kavanah is the chord. A mitzvah strichas kavanah. It's nothing. Aveir, except for tzedakah, I think that's the only exception to the.
I don't think that's how the Gra's going to learn that.
So the Gra, right? I'm not sure he's not learning it that way, but that's a sugya, right? That's an interesting. Okay.
So for us to.
About shalom u'varach.
So we can't. So it's for us to try and understand the litmus test for us, if we're ever in a situation where we trying to do, like, I guess, and if they were the shema, better just not appropriate for us.
Right, you can't, no, it's not appropriate. But, I mean, look, it's not appropriate, of course not appropriate, but, like, let's say you run into your car to take somebody who's sick to the hospital. So, okay, there the lumdus it's not an aver, it's a mitzvah, but it is, in lumdus, it's an aver lishma. But what's happening is I'm being machal my Shabbos. Right? The Gemara says that you're allowed to save somebody because what's the lashon in the Gemara? Chalel Shabbos echad k'dei shikayim Shabbos harbe. That's the Gemara says a svar to it. It's not that it's not Chilul Shabbos, but there's a Kiyum Shabbos. Isn't that a very lishma?
Right.
It's an Aver, it's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah
Of course, but I'm saying, but why does the Gemara have to say this reason? The Gemara says it's kedai to be Mechal Shabbos so that this guy can be Mekayim many, many Shabboses. So like there's a virtue to keeping Shabbos, and it's a good investment of Chilul Shabbos so that I'm creating a lot of Shmir Shabbos. The Gemara is gratuitous here.
It's not Chilul Shabbos. You have a leave with this.
But what's the pshat in the Gemara? Why does the Gemara say this? So the Gemara is telling you, don't take it lightly that it's in a chlabi it comes out of it. The Gemara is saying what Ramak is saying, that ultimately it is an aver, but the greater truth is you're saving a life, and there's a lot of Shabbos here. So that's a case where it's mutter and halacha. That's a case where the Gaon even agrees that it's mutter and halacha. Esther, that's the case that it was mutter and halacha. Because he says at the very end of the whole thing, he says, I, Esther, so he says, Pikuach nefesh to Yisrael shining, at the end of that paragraph. He says we should really learn the whole paragraph.
Where is that going?
It's in the Bais Rav. I'm sorry, I was lucky.
But Esther was a Neviah. She understood it.
Doesn't help you. Doesn't help you. I would have helped her.
Can help to help Eliyahu and Avi and Har.
Just as she knew that it was maybe the right thing.
Each case is a different.
It's such a dangerous thing. I mean,
very
the guy who killed, throughout the centuries on this very idea.
Exactly.
The greater good is.
That's why I was against it. I'll tell you something interesting. I have I'm very bad at remembering where things are, so I Kodesh Baruch Hu compensated with a mazel that when I need to, I open up and it's always there. It's like Babish, like a chasar that I have that I can't remember anything. But if it's not in the middle of a shir or something, so then I have.
But as far as tefillah, is this?
What? No, it's in the back of the siddur. Agra. I don't know how I want to find it.
Isn't there also that Gemara that talks about this town where they only spoke truth and the guy spoke like one little mistruth? What is it, Kushta or something? Where
Kushta.
So there you have a situation where the guy, I mean, obviously there's a deeper meaning than that.
Oh,
the guy said, like, my wife is, not shampooing her hair or something, and the next thing you know, like, suddenly people started dying. Is that kind of the way it works?
So that's actually a Shvar Gemara.
Very good. Get out of town.
I'll find it for you next time.
Never quite understood that.
At the end, he says, though, if I'm not mistaken, that the only heter is if it's pikuach nefesh of Klal Yisrael. So that's. Oh, here it is. That's not where I was reading before, but anyways, but at the end he says, even though you see the tikkun of your neshama is talui in this avera, like, have to do a scandal. We don't even have that. It's a different case because her kavanah haya lahatzolos Klal Yisrael. So what he was against, probably this is a polemic against the Hasidim, I would imagine. What he was saying. In other words, they're justifying everything. Davening late, let's say, I could daven Shachris after Shkia because I'm davening with more kavanah. Like there's a din. So probably this is a typical. So they said, but Aver Lishma. There's a din. What are you violating the halacha for? That's probably where he was coming from.